So, I mean, let's just get right into it. Maybe I'll come back to my icebreaker game and start with maybe a controversial statement. Decentralizing is obviously a huge theme of data mesh, right? How feasible is that, right? In reality, can we really expect domain teams to produce their own data products in an efficient, scalable, reliable way that is interoperable, that meets all the criteria of a good data product? Is that a reality in most organizations? So,
Which do you mean? Is it a reality or is it a reality in most organizations? Is it possible?
okay,
Is it in most?
I like the nuance of language there. I think, tell me more about where is it possible, right? Or how is it possible? Scott, we'll start with you there.
So I think one of the things, I mean, talking about from going from 0 to 1 of making progress, one of the big things that I see that's the most problematic when I have data mesh conversations, especially people kind of from the outside in rather than those in an actual implementation, is that there's this expectation of this happening almost suddenly. And, when you think about data ownership, if you treat it like a hot potato, everybody's going to get burned, right? Like you can't just pass that over. You have to build up people's capabilities. You have to build the platform to give them those capabilities, but you have to build up their capabilities over time. Does that mean shared ownership? Does that mean the central team still owns the data and then the metadata is owned by the team? I'm seeing all sorts of different things, but where I'm seeing people fail the most is trying to rush through this, trying to do data mesh in a record amount of time. I will say Abhi is the only one that I've talked to that's been able to actually do that and see pretty good value in a very short amount of time. But yes, teams can own this if you enable them to, and if the org structure enables them. But if you just hand it over to a bunch of software developers, we don't have the tooling. I don't know that we ever will to be able to actually own this. So I'll
Mm,
stop there.
yeah. Matthias,
Yeah,
what do you
absolutely. I agree. I think we've seen this in many companies that we've been working with. That if for example, the data platform team wants to push that responsibility to the line of businesses, to the domains too quickly, of course they are hesitant, right? Because they may say, we don't have the skill, we don't have the resources, we don't have the right tools, we've never done that before, we don't have the time. Why now? Right? And I can understand that, right? If that is coming too suddenly. And in some instances, even it was not even well defined. What does it mean to be responsible for data, right? So then I advise clients, write it down. What exactly does it mean in day-to-day tasks, and which are the ones you want to start with, and which of these tasks maybe will come in the phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 of your journey, right? So that these teams can grow into the over time. That's important, I think.
I'll jump on that a little bit. So, first off, I want to say I've been teasing Scott over the past week about being on this panel with him because, I think Scott is the world's biggest expert in data mesh, and he has a great podcast, Data Mesh Radio, and he's interviewed dozens, hundreds, probably people at this point. And one of the things that is clear is that all these organizations are different, right? They're not monolithic, pun intended. And so the answer to your question of, is this feasible is context dependent, right? Where is that organization and where are the types of organizations? SMBs are going to look different than mid-market, is going to look different than enterprise, going to look different than multinational corporations with multiple conglomerates, right? These organizations are all in different places, and the challenges they're going to have are going to look, accordingly very different on either the associate side or the technical side. Look, I think it's helpful to think about what the challenges are in moving to data mesh. And I think of there being basically, 6 things that a data producer needs to get right